This is our statement for today. Bring back our girl statement following the loss of Hawa Lema in a tragedy that highlights the failure of the government. Today is yet another dark day in our nation. The heartbreaking news of the death of Hawa Lema comes as an extreme shock which leaves us devastated by the deeply regrettable consequences of the government's failure. Hawa was a nurse working to save lives of the vulnerable in the Northeast. She was a young lady who selflessly dedicated her life to serving humanity. As a staff member of the International Committee of the Red Cross. However, she, along with her colleagues, Alice Ngada of UNICEF and Safra Ahmed of ICRC, were captured during an attack on RAN on the 1st of March 2018. This is how they have come to be referred to as the RAN women. The attack in RAN left a number of casualties in its wake, including the loss of security forces stationed to secure them. In regrettably similar circumstances to her colleague, Saifram, Hawa has also been brutally murdered. Following a threat by the terrorists and the failure of a government that has a constitutional duty to protect her. She was a 24-year-old Nigerian citizen who has had her hopes, dreams, and life snatched away. Hawa, Safra, and Alice should never have been targets. This loss is a loss for every Nigerian. Safra is gone. Hawa is gone. How long before the tragedy ends for others who remain in captivity? Because nothing has changed regarding the engagement of our government on the issue we raised during our last protest on the 19th of September 2018. We reiterate that those demands, we reiterate those demands by reading out the exact demands that we did last time. What is your priority, Mr. President? What happened to the President's pledge to bring back our remaining 112 Chibok girls? It is with utter consternation that we point to the visible evidence, loudly noticed by the Nigerian public, that President Buhari's campaign for the 2019 elections has further relegated the tragedy of the continuing captivity of our Chibok girls and other victims of terrorism to the background. It is condemnable that the same president who made the abduction of Chibok girls the epicenter of his campaign in the 2015 presidential elections no longer remembers that 112 citizens of his 112 children of his poor citizens are still languishing in the den of terrorists, despite his pledges to rescue them. So we demand, Mr. President, it is time to review your priorities. Your current mandate places a constitutional duty on you to prioritize the security of lives of all citizens above personal interest of re-election. Mr. President, our Chibok girls, Leah Sharibu, and now the one remaining RAN woman, who are aid workers, deserve your evident prioritization. 2, we feel that this trust has been betrayed because Chibok girls' parents and Buhari's many unfulfilled pledges, because of Chibok girls' parents and Buhari's many unfulfilled pledges. It is evident to all well-meaning people that the parents of our remaining schoolgirls have all but been pathetically forgotten and abandoned to their fate by the administration of President Buhari. These were the same parents that were promised swift recovery of their daughters by President Buhari when he was on the campaign trail in 2014 and 2015. Our movement even recalls how in 2 meetings with our movement and the abducted girls' parents after his election, the president asked them to repose their trust in his determination to search for and bring back their daughters. When was the last time the presidency reached out to their families with any update on the status of efforts to rescue their daughters? Today, 112 households in Chibok grieve daily on the tragedy of their abducted children without any form of information nor closure from the federal government. Mr. President, we demand that you fulfill your pledge to rescue the 112 remaining Chibok girls now. They must cease to be left by your administration as captives of terrorists. April 2019 must not come without the rescue of all our Chibok girls. Mr. President, reach out to the parents today to give them an update and hope on your effort to rescue their daughters. Where is Leah Sharibu? The same manner of gross neglect and abandonment visited on Chibok girls has been extended to Leah Sharibu. Of course, until recently, after we made this demand in our last protest, there has been some effort to talk to Leah Sharibu's parents. We say the fact that Leah Sharibu, a Christian, was the only living Dapchi girl that the presidency failed to bring back when it successfully negotiated the release of our 104 schoolmates abducted from their school in Yobe leaves many troubling questions unanswered. What then explains the morbid and disturbing silence of the presidency on the status of Leah Sharibu? Mr. President, we demand, where is Leah Sharibu? You must give Leah Sharibu her own justice of rescue that you gave to her 104 schoolmates. Anything short of immediately securing the rescue of Leah and returning her to her parents will be regarded as double standards on your part, Mr. President. Did the federal government actually watch while humanitarian Saifullah Husseini Ahmed was paid back with execution, and now Hawa has also been paid back with execution by terrorists? In a heart-wrenching video clip released by terrorists in August, 3 Nigerian humanitarian aid workers who were abducted while providing assistance to our people in IDP camps in Borno cried out to the president to do everything possible to rescue us. They further cried, "We were there for the vulnerable. Now we are the vulnerable." How excruciatingly painful can their plea be to all who have paid attention to their plight? Yet, our movement has no evidence that their outcry to our president elicited any response or action from our government to secure their release. We are therefore puzzled by the morbid silence, inaction, and absence of fierce urgency of our federal government on securing the release of the women. We were shocked, like the rest of the world, when evidence was released by their terrorist captors showing that one of them, now 2 of them, Saifullah Husseini Ahmed and Hawa, have been executed in cold blood. So, the 30 days have come and gone, and another execution has taken place. Who will save Alice and Leah Sharibu from their captors? Mr. President, swiftly respond to the plea of Alice and secure her release immediately. Do everything possible to avert any harm to her life, Mr. President. Mr. President, lead an urgent effort to strengthen the security and safety of humanitarian workers in Nigeria, working with the international organizations like the United Nations. Denying gallantry. What is the motive for the hidden casualties of our soldiers in the front line of battle? We have frequently condemned the opaqueness of the communicating, We have frequently condemned the opaqueness in the communicating of the counter-terrorism war by the federal government and the military. The Bring Back Our Girls advocacy has been consistent in voicing the correlation between the well-being of our troops, the rescue of our Chibok girls, and the successful end of the terrorism war. It is scandalous that the latest trend of the military high command, which has President Buhari as commander-in-chief, is to perfunctorily bury hundreds and tens of our soldiers who were killed in the battlefront. What is even worse is the frequent denial of the deaths of our soldiers by the military, thus denying their families the opportunity of closure. We are outraged at how this insensitive approach in handling military casualties ends up depriving victims and their families the full honor for gallantry that our nation and people owe them for making the ultimate sacrifice with their lives. The many clandestine burials appear to be motivated by self-serving desire of the administration to perpetuate the myth that the terrorists have been successfully defeated. Nigerians demand an immediate end to this cruel disregard for patriots who give their lives for the safety and security of the rest of us and our country. The military authority should immediately confirm the number of our soldiers that have died within this month of October 2018. Their families and Nigerians should have a brief on the circumstances of their deaths. The names of our fallen heroes should be released to the Nigerian public as it obtains in other democracies. Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces should immediately direct an end to the shoddy burial of our fallen heroes. Direct the military high command to cancel all such tardy burials in their place. Conduct full military honors funerals to enable our country and citizens give the due heroes recognition to our gallant soldiers who died for us. Mr. President, all those responsible for ensuring the safety of our troops and military bases who are found to have failed in their duty should be immediately sanctioned for such failures. More effective measures must now be put in place to prevent further deaths and damage to the morale of our troops. Are we factually winning the insecurity war? There remains a strong sense of general insecurity around the country, where Nigerians and indeed the world not told that the military has won the war. What then is the reason for the escalation of attacks by the terrorists and the heightened loss of life of citizens and our soldiers? Aside from escalation of attacks by insurgents in Borno State and other parts of the Northeast, there have been killings in Benue, Plateau, Taraba, Sokoto, Zamfara, Nasarawa, Kwara, and Kaduna states in recent times. The Nigerian government owes her citizens transparent disclosure of the true state of affairs in the Northeast and other flashpoints across the country it is critical for democratic accountability that citizens should know. The President, the Presidency, federal government, military, police, and other security establishments should immediately present a public briefing session to Nigerians on the state of security of the country. Following this, the federal government should institute a monthly counter-terrorism status report to the Nigerian public. What is the state and condition of our IDPs? Our compatriots who are internally displaced by the crisis, especially in the Northeast and across the country, appear to have been forgotten. Their conditions have continually degenerated, thereby increasing the humanitarian tragedy. Mr. President, direct an assessment of the IDPs and IDP camps' conditions and accompanying comprehensive strategy for their resettlement and reintegrations back into their communities, assessed by the government and the military to be secure. Design an effective primary health care system and delivery mechanism for women and children in IDP camps. Design an effective access to basic education for children of school age and entrepreneurship and skills acquisition program for young people and women in the IDP camps. In conclusion, we wish to reiterate that our advocacy for the federal government to rescue our 112 Chibok girls, Leah Sharibu, Alice, and all other abducted persons in the custody of terrorists shall not cease until they are all brought back. Within the coming weeks and months, we shall constantly take actions to press on with our demands. We shall not give any reprieve to President Buhari until he performs his constitutional duty and fulfills his pledge to the people of Nigeria to always put their interests above his own. Get your priorities right, Mr. President. Signed for and on behalf of Bring Back Our Girls, Edith Yasin, Nifemi Onifade, and Gapani Younger. Thank you for your time.